Welcome, everyone. I'm Rob Zahutsky.
I'm Sergey Thelman.
And I'm Zach Miles. You're listening to Babble of the Beltway.
Welcome back, everyone, to week 19 of Babble of the Beltway, or, since we no longer use week terms, Wildcard weekend. We had some crazy playoff games, a couple close ones, but surprisingly, most of them were blowouts, and fairly substantial blowouts. Things that you might not see that often in the playoffs, but we sure did this week. We'll get to that in 1 second, but first, we have some formalities. Sergi, how was your weekend?
It was good. I relaxed. I sniped dynasty players from Zach in a fantasy football startup draft, and I got to watch some football. And if it sounds like this is the third or fourth time that we've done this take, it is because it is. And it's become Zach and Rob are unprofessional. So Zach, how was your weekend?
My weekend was fantastic.
No one cares about your week. I asked about your weekend. Okay.
Yeah, my weekend was fantastic. It was really good. I just didn't really do that much. I went on a walk in the snow. It was really nice. We got some really snowy, icy sort of situations out here in Maryland right now, for those of you who are not from here, especially our Sri Lankan audience. Yeah, it was cool. And doing this dynasty draft, I've learned I hated Sergi more than I ever have in my whole life after all the picks he's stolen from me. So I just got to kind of move forward and understand that he's not a true friend. He's a rival and an enemy for the rest of my life. How about you, Rob? How was your
Forever.
My weekend was pretty good. I went to Toby's Dinner Theater in Columbia, and I saw Spamalot, which, for those of you that don't know, is sort of
Great show.
Yeah, musical version of
Great
Monty
show.
Python and the Holy Grail. It was pretty funny. I would definitely describe it as different. For those of you that don't know, on this podcast, most of what you hear is done in one take. This podcast is going to be extra chippy because this is our third or fourth take of this intro because of a very unfortunate phrasing placed at a very good time. So we hope you all enjoy. We have some fun stuff coming up. Let's get right into Weekend Recap.
Weekend Recap.
3, 2, 1.
Up first, we have Weekend Recap. A lot of these games, again, were blowouts. So Sergi, tell us about our first blowout, the Patriots at the Bills.
Thanks, Rob. Yeah, you're right. It was a blowout. The Bills won 47-17. Yeah, they completely destroyed the Patriots the entire game. The Bills scored 7 touchdowns on 7 offensive drives. They did not punt. They didn't go for field goals. They just consistently drove the ball into the New England end zone. So absolutely crazy. And not to mention, it was a 2-degree weather game. It was one of the coldest NFL games in the last few years. The Patriots got completely manhandled. They were dominated by the Bills offense, and the Patriots' entire offense this year has been built around being able to run the football well, be efficient, and have their defense keep them in the game. Well, they did not meet anyone like playoff Josh Allen, I think, all year. Josh Allen's performance this game, and I was talking about this a little bit before the podcast, it was like transcendent. It was a Michael Jordan type performance. There is just one player on the field who is better than everybody else on that football field right now, and he is taking control of the game. I mentioned that it was a 2-degree weather game with a lower wind chill outside in Buffalo. Josh Allen threw the ball 25 times. He completed 21 attempts for 308 yards and 5 touchdowns to 9 different receivers in this weather, and tacked on another 66 yards on the ground. He had a 94.8 PFF grade, which, just to give you a reference, I mean, the highest grade this season is Trent Williams with a 98.8. So that is at the upper echelon of how well you can play as an offensive player. But the Patriots, the last time that these teams played, the Patriots, they ran the ball 45 times. Sorry, when the Patriots won, they ran the ball 45 times for 222 yards. That was the key to their success. Again, to do that, the defense has to keep Josh Allen in check because they couldn't. This time, the team just ran the ball 18 times for 89 yards. You score a couple times, the Patriots get down. I don't think they have the tools yet to come back. I don't think that Mac Jones has the arsenal yet to come back. And at the end of the day, this is a statement win for Josh Allen. And this has got to feel pretty darn good for the Buffalo Bills. I am rooting for the Bills for the rest of the playoffs and the rest of to win a Super Bowl. Unfortunately, I had a coworker a couple months ago who, from my old job, I sat with him for about 2.5 years. He's a huge Bills fan. He passed away. So I think that this year, in honor of that, the Bills are going to keep pushing and keep going on to that Super Bowl, or at least I hope so. But yeah, it's amazing to see. He was a big Josh Allen fan, and now I can really see why. I haven't seen a guy that was this dominant on the field since Cam Newton during his MVP season, that no one can stop no matter how hard they try. So that's the Bills blowing out the Patriots. That's Josh Allen putting the team on his back. And the Patriots, they are really missing Tom Brady come playoff time, but still got a bright future with McCorkle, Jones. They'll look to rebuild a little bit and reload into next season. Speaking of Tom Brady and Tom Brady's Buccaneers, Rob, tell us about Eagles at Bucks.
Yeah, so if Josh Allen is metaphorically Michael Jordan, then Jalen Hurts is that kid at the pickup basketball game that dribbles the ball between his legs a bunch of times and then throws an air ball, but thinks he made it and then turns around and starts celebrating.
When did you see me play basketball? I don't feel okay with that.
Yeah, this game was an utter disaster, and the Eagles looked awful. We're calling it a blowout, even though the final score was only 31-15. I believe it was 31-0 at one point in time. I think those last 15 were during conservative garbage time. This was just a bad game, and Jalen Hurts looked like not only a quarterback that doesn't belong in the playoffs, but a quarterback that doesn't belong in the NFL. Devonta Smith, is probably their best offensive player, and he was completely unutilized for the first half of this game. He saw his first target with 1 minute and 55 seconds remaining in the second quarter. And by this point in time, it was already 17-0, and the game was already wildly out of hand and way out of the Eagles' game plan. He was utilized in the second half, and shocker, the Eagles' offense started moving. He had, I think, in total in this game, it was 10 or 11 targets. I think that targets is a word to use very loosely, because I think maybe 3 of those balls that we called targets were actually catchable. And the way that I would phrase this is that of his 4 or 5 catches, I can't remember exactly how many he had, 3 of them I would argue were uncatchable. And somehow Devonta Smith just made it happen. Jalen Hurts was just missing him on every single throw. Devonta Smith had to jump straight up and make a beautiful leaping catch on a ball that was thrown too high. He had to make a crazy dive and reeled in a 2-point conversion that I honestly thought he dropped until I saw the replay. He had a screen pass, which he then broke off for 31 yards, breaking several tackles. This is a very small wide receiver, by the way. And then he also had a 15 yards after a catch on a short pass. He broke 2 or 3 tackles on this play and spun out of a tackle. He looked like the only person on that offense that could actually do anything. And by the time he was utilized, game was already over. Again, Jalen threw 6 or 7 balls that I would argue were completely uncatchable, 2 of which were interceptions that looked like they were intended more for the defender than actually him. And Devonta was rightfully visibly angry at several parts of this game, because he just felt like, can someone please do something other than me? And if you can't, can you just give me the ball? Which is actually a great segue to my next point. Stop giving Jalen Reagor the ball.
But he was a first-round pick,
Stop
Rob.
giving him
He's
the ball.
so talented.
Stop giving him the ball. Just stop
higher
it.
draft capital than Justin Jefferson, Rob.
This guy, in this game, had more fumbles than he had receptions. That is how bad his game was. He had 2 fumbles on returns. One of them was lost. So basically, his number of receptions this game was equal to the number of turnovers that he caused. That's their first-round pick, who they picked up over Justin Jefferson. It's crazy. But that's enough about the Eagles, because there's plenty of offseason for them. The Buccaneers' offense and defense looked elite. And they looked elite missing a lot of players. Their defense is missing players. They played lights out for a lot of this game. It wasn't until garbage time they kind of let their guard down, and they're going to have some talking to post-game about that. But we have to remember, this is a Bucs offense playing against a fairly decent Eagles defense with no Godwin, no AB, no Fournette. And yet, they didn't seem to struggle nearly as much as you would think. Brady is making some very average players look like they're superstars. So this game really came down to the fact that the Eagles' own incompetence just kind of kicked themselves out of the game. Jalen Hurts had 45.3 in PFF, 5 turnover-worthy plays. This was just not his game, and this was a really bad one to end the season on, considering that they're not even sure that they want to commit to this guy. I don't know if you can after that. Zach, you have a point?
Yeah, I was just gonna say, if you're done, I have a buddy, very very good friend, listens to the podcast every day as soon as it drops, and he goes to work and everything. Not every day, obviously, but every week when we drop a new one. And he said the best way to phrase this, that Jalen Hurts is bad, right?
Mm-hmm.
Quarterbacks can have bad days, and the offense will still function.
Yeah,
that offense did not function and cannot function on the days where he is less than stellar.
Yep.
So, Brandon, 100% correct, man. You've been right about Jalen for a long time. You know, I agree with you. Sad to see, because I love Jalen Hurts as a person. I don't love him, but, I think he's a great guy. But, I don't think he's right for the NFL.
Yep.
I think it's more a scheme thing than anything else. I mean, when you had, I don't know about you all, but when I saw Minshew in that offense this year, I thought he performed better than Hurts. And really, it wasn't
first game. In his first game.
The second game was a little
awful.
Yeah. But I mean, the second game, it was against the Dallas Cowboys. And that's,
Still, you got to perform. You got to try.
That's fair. I still felt like Minshew was phenomenal in his first game. And really, a lot of it was just dealing the ball in intermediate areas of the field with good accuracy, which is something that he's always done. And it's not necessarily something that I think Jalen has in his arsenal to be able to sit in the pocket and pick apart a defense. Well, if they want to move forward with Hurts, and then you need to move forward with that rushing attack, and then you need to move forward with something like what the Ravens did with Lamar, and building a game around having a mobile quarterback and utilizing it to open up your running lanes. The problem is Devontae Smith is never going to be happy in that offense.
See, but Lamar has more arm strength than Jalen Hurts. Jalen Hurts is not just inaccurate. He also has a weak arm.
Yeah.
If you're going to win with Jalen Hurts long-term, you need to run a triple option. So you will never win with Jalen Hurts long-term.
Yeah.
This just in.
All right. Well, I'll go ahead and I'll take the next game. Obviously, next up, sorry to cut you off, by the way, Rob, and everyone.
Oh, no, you're good.
Actually,
that was my last point, so that's perfect timing.
Okay, yeah. I figured the discourse is better anyways. Next up, we're going to be talking Steelers at the Chiefs. And just like Ben Roethlisberger said before the game, when he said, and this is a real interview where he said this unironically, he said, "We don't stand a chance." And later on, he was asked about it. He said, "We don't deserve to be here. They're obviously the better team." So Ben Roethlisberger phoned it in before the game even started. And truth be told, in that first quarter, I was kind of curious as to what was happening. I was just like, the Steelers got some fight in them. Ben can't seem to complete a pass with his weird Friar Bowl haircut. I don't know if you guys saw that. He just looked like a strange man with his hair. He does, man. He's a very... I'm not one to judge, considering I shaved my head a month and a half ago, but he did not... He's not his best look. Anyway, so Ben was awful. He was throwing lame duck passes. His statistics indicate that he was better than he was. But, I mean, the Chiefs won 42-21. And 2 of those touchdowns were in garbage time for the Steelers. Truly, the game was a 42-7 game. And it was
that
not
was defensive. That was a defensive touchdown.
Yeah, exactly. And it was not close. The Chiefs looked like they were taking advantage of a bad team. And honestly, they were. The Steelers looked hapless. They looked pretty incomplete. Like I said, Ben is washed. He's old and bad. And honestly, I'm thankful that he's not going to be in the league next year. He should have retired after he suffered that elbow injury. He suffered that he needed to get Tommy John surgery. That's a thing that even baseball players struggle to come back from. An NFL quarterback, that's unheard of that happening. I think one other player had that happen in the past 30 years. And unfortunately, it didn't work out for him either. Anyways, long story short, because I don't intend on talking about this for too much, it was kind of a fun game to watch. Patrick Mahomes, although he didn't look, he still just looks off. He still just looks like he's not himself. But, I mean, he threw 5 touchdown passes. I mean, heck, even Travis Kelce threw a touchdown pass. That's crazy. You know what I mean? Like, it's crazy to see these things. Jerick McKinnon looked decent at their running back position, considering Darrell Williams and Clyde Edwards-Helaire were both hurt. And it just goes to show that Clyde Edwards-Helaire, and I'm eating my words, was an awful draft pick.
Mm-hmm.
I thought he was going to be the truth, man. He was an awful draft pick. They could have done so much with just Darrell Williams or, dare I say, Darwin Thompson, R.I.P. I miss that man. You know, all these different guys, man. Like, they were so much of a better fit for the Chiefs, but they wasted that draft pick on Clyde Edwards-Helaire. Once again, though, we're not talking about that. We're talking about how bad the Steelers are right now and going into the offseason, how much worse it's about to get because they have such a terrible cap situation still. They have a bad situation when it comes to aging talent on the team. They need a quarterback. I don't think Dwayne Haskins is the answer. I think Dwayne Haskins thinks he's the answer wherever who will give him money. You know what I mean? But he's not good. Trust me, from my perspective. I watched him in Washington. But yeah. Anyways, Ben Roethlisberger's career ended on a whimper here, and I'm glad for it. As somebody wrote, I don't know who wrote this. Bye, Felicia. But yeah,
that was me. That was me. Goodbye, Ben Roethlisberger.
Yeah.
No,
yeah.
It was bad for a minute there when the Steelers were up like 7-0. I texted my one friend from work who's a Chiefs fan that I know, like, hey, please fix, and that was it. And then the Chiefs proceeded to put up 42 points, and we were good. Yeah, that was much better. So,
all right,
fixed it.
Yeah, the final game, because as of right now, we are 4 games we're going to discuss in this segment. We had Raiders at Bengals, and this was 19-26 Bengals. Now, score is a little bit misleading. The Bengals pretty much dominated most of the game. They were up 20 to, I think, 3, or might have been 20 or 7. I can't remember at the first half. Bengals had a big lead, but the Raiders just kept kind of sticking around. They didn't really let the Bengals put them away, which led up to some fantastic late game theatrics. There was a controversial play that happened in the Raiders-Bengals game that you might have heard on the news or your favorite football podcast, you know, Babble the Beltway. But there was an early whistle on a touchdown play. Now, it was only half a second to a second before the touchdown catch. Basically, Joe Burrow was really close to the sideline and somehow got the ball off before he touched down. I think the ref got confused and thought he was out and blew the whistle. Ball is immediately caught after for a touchdown. So people were saying, oh, well, he blew the whistle, so the defender might have given up on the play. I really don't think that that's what happened. I think that he was beat and that was going to be a touchdown regardless. Technically, by NFL rules, that should have been ruled a dead play and it should not have been a touchdown. But I think it was, while not following the rules, I think it was the right thing to do to let it happen, because that would have been significantly more controversial if a touchdown was taken back due to a referee mistake that should have and would have happened. So I'm completely fine with it. They didn't follow their rule book. It is what it is.
Yeah.
And interestingly enough, Adam Schefter, NFL insider, for whatever his insider news is still worth at this point, he said the crew isn't likely to receive high marks and isn't expected to be assigned to work any other games in the playoffs this season, which, I mean, it's
so many of these crews and teams make mistakes that are almost as egregious as that, but because it's one thing on an otherwise relatively clean game.
Yeah.
I didn't think it was such a terrible game outside of that call.
It's funny because I didn't even think that was a bad call. Ref thought he stepped out, blew the whistle. Like, I don't even think that that's a hateful thing. It's like, you blew it early. You should have just probably let him throw it. Maybe, I don't know, but I didn't even think it was that bad.
They just didn't follow the rule book, like you said, and that's part of the reason why. But it's stupid because the NFL has called so many plays dead before they needed to be called dead, and it blows my mind because it's ruined so many football games. Sorry, pedestal here. Really hate the referees and how things go sometimes. Back to you, Rob.
Yeah. So in typical Raiders fashion, this game should have been a complete blowout. The Bengals were a better team, but they just did what the Raiders do, and they just stuck around, hung around way past their welcome, and actually had a chance to tie and or potentially win with a 2-point conversion at the end of the game. The final pass of the game was a 4th down pass from Derek Carr. He didn't actually make the throw all the way to the end zone, so even though the ball was intercepted, even if it was caught for a completion, it was still going to be a turnover on downs on the 1. So not great decision making in my personal opinion. I would like to see Derek Carr throw that in a place where it has to be caught in the end zone if it's going to be caught, but it is what it is. The only other game that we were going to cover in this segment was Cardinals at Rams. That game has not yet occurred as of the time of this recording. So we might be talking about that a little bit next week. We might be talking about a little more of our predictions in a later segment as well, because we don't currently know which of those two teams are going to go face the Buccaneers next week. However, there is still one more game that we have not covered. And this game was so insane, so egregious, so utterly ridiculous that we had to give it its own segment. So here we go for the first time ever, our brand new segment called What in Tarnation?
What in tarnation?
All right, so this brand new segment, What in Tarnation, we are going to try to figure out what in tarnation happened in the Cowboys 49ers game. So first things first, the most important thing, the 49ers defeated the Cowboys in Dallas 23-17. So what in tarnation happened? We had a referee-induced delay of game penalty. I have never actually seen this before, but on a 4th down, the Cowboys tried to get kind of cheeky, and they put out their punt team, and then they tried to move their punt team into an offensive formation, and they're like, oh, this is fine. Kyle Shanahan will just call a timeout. And then Kyle Shanahan didn't call a timeout because he knows what's happening. He's Kyle Shanahan. Like he does tricks like this all the time. So the Cowboys try to take their special teams off and put their offense back on for a quick play. Except here's the problem. They were so slow to get back in the game and get all of their new players, their subs, onto the field that the referee had to stop to allow the 49ers players to have their chance to substitute. So the referee is literally preventing the snap while the play clock is slowly whittling down because they have to give the defense time to sub. The referee steps away as the 2 on the play clock is turning to the 1. And I have never seen a faster delay of game penalty called on 0. They immediately got the Cowboys. I understand how the rules work and why it is this way. But wow, that felt like that was just really a robbery of the Cowboys right there. I've never seen this. A referee-induced delay of game. Second, the Cowboys got 2 defensive holdings. Okay, seems normal so far. During running plays. When the 49ers were running the ball. There was no excuse. There was no reason for this. They were just openly holding. One of them was a full-blown takedown in front of a referee. Completely undisciplined ball. I mean, we're at a point now where a defensive holding on a rushing play is actually fairly rare. But there were 2 on the same team in the same game, which was insane. One of them, by the way, extended a 49ers drive because it's an automatic first down. And I believe it was the 3rd down, so it was a critical mistake to make. The 49ers, speaking of rare penalties, got a roughing the kicker penalty, extending a Cowboys drive. How many rare things are going to happen in this game if you're not starting to catch on? This is why we had to give this game its own segment, because we have 12 of these bullet points, and I'm on number 3 right now, and we're already going pretty crazy. There was a roughing the kicker penalty. Up the gut, just nailed this punter in his plant leg. Completely brutal. I don't understand how that happens. That's so rare now. But in this game, it happened. Up next, we have Sergi with a couple more points.
Yeah. Trayvon Diggs openly taunted a 49ers player after making a stop where he ran up around in front of the guy to get in his face and make gestures at him. But because, you know, he's not Cassius Marsh, who just happened to look at the Steelers sideline after getting a sack, it wasn't going to be a taunting penalty. You know, there's a really, really big difference between those two. One was clearly intentional and intimidating, and the other one is the Dallas Cowboys on prime time. Dallas was called for 5 pre-snap penalties. 5 pre-snap penalties. And once again,
playoffs, by the way.
Playoffs. One of the ways to win playoff games is to minimize mistakes. Sometimes that can be really, really hard when you're in the middle of a play and something crazy goes and that's out of your control. But pre-snap is where you probably have the most control out of any point of a football play. So there we go, Dallas. Excellent job. As you guys can tell, I love the Cowboys. And this did, double-edged sword here. Cowboys did use several design lateral plays where receivers would lateral the ball after the catch. One went laughably wrong, and the other was a pretty great catch on their final drive, which gave him some good chunk yardage and managed to get the ball out of bounds and stop the clock. Zach?
Oh, man, y'all, this is my favorite segment so far because we're mostly just talking about how the Cowboys ruined the game for themselves.
They ruined the game for themselves. It was this offseason when they gave Dak like $150 million contract. They ruined it for himself back then.
Dude, it was more than that. It was when they hired Mike McCarthy.
It was also the year before when they gave Zeke Elliott a 6-year deal that leaves him with dead money for the next 3 years. That's when they really started to ruin it.
Yeah, I love that the Cowboys got bumped out of the playoffs. Obviously, being a Washington fan, they're my most favorite team to hate. I hate them more than I love Washington. So let me get on with my points because I know that we're running out of time.
We have
already.
some good anti-49ers points here too. Don't worry.
We do. So Jimmy Garoppolo, first of all, played a pretty decent game. They took a big lead. He had some solid minimal play where he was just game managing the heck out of it in the best way possible. And you're like, whoa, Deebo Samuel is the running back of the future for this franchise. Cut him inside, go outside, anywhere. He can run the ball and he can catch. Like, this guy is what we want Antonio Gibson to be.
Jimmy Garoppolo, Ryan Tannehill, top tier guys at just handing the ball off. I mean, it is really hard
average quarterback
to get to that level of how cleanly they give the ball to the running backs.
They approach Trent Dilfer status, if you ask me.
Wow,
that's Jamal Lewis.
That's a tall compliment.
That's high praise right there.
Anyways, Jimmy throws a pick, of course, when it was needed for the Cowboys. It was an awful ball. He just goes off unabated, starts running to the right, throws the ball, underthrows everybody, except for 2 Dallas defenders who just happened to be within 5 yards of each other. And it was picked, I want to say, by Curse, right? 27 Curse. Anyways, totally ruins everything for them. Then he also misses an open wide receiver downfield for a potential 76-yard touchdown. Jimmy Garoppolo is trash. He is not good if you need him to be good. He would be great on a run-based team. He's a very replaceable player. He's also, I don't know if you guys saw this. This is unrelated to the bullet points. Was the reason why Trent Williams got a false start. Kyle Shanahan said Jimmy Garoppolo got too excited and didn't let Trent Williams get set.
We'll get to that. We'll get to that in a bit, though.
We'll get to that. I'm sorry. Anyways, so number 2, star pass rusher Nick Bosa goes out with a concussion, which obviously is huge. And the 49ers pass rush somehow gets even better, which was kind of interesting. They picked up 4 additional sacks, one of which was a strip sack that was recovered by Dak, but it was great to see after Bosa left the game. In November, they traded for Charles O with a 6th-round pick. I don't want to mess up his last name, y'all. Omenihu?
Dude, honestly, I don't know how it's pronounced either.
I apologize for any disrespect, Charles. I'm just going to call you Mr. O. He got 2 sacks, and he had 5 pressures in the game. And then also, the Cowboys got away with a fake punt pass for a first down, which was kind of awful to see. Because when I watched it, I was like, I hate everything that they do that ends up in good. If they could go 0-17 for the next 10 years and Jerry Jones is forced to sell that team, I would be very happy and then move them away from Dallas, shift them up to Canada or something. Then I could appreciate them. Back to you, Rob.
So this game is already completely crazy and makes absolutely no sense. And we have not even told you the final 3 bullet points, which, by the way, are in chronological order of the craziest 3 things that happened in this game. So the 49ers get the game-winning first down. But wait, there's an official review, and they bring it back to 4th and inches. Now, as Zach has kind of mentioned earlier, the 49ers do a quarterback sneak. They successfully get the first down. They have won the game twice in a row. But wait, there's more. There's always more. because, as Zach had mentioned, Trent Williams was not fully set because for some reason on this quarterback sneak, they felt like they needed to do 2 motions before just running the sneak because that was a very important part that definitely didn't just overcomplicate the play and create an issue which could have cost them the game. But regardless, Jimmy G snaps it too quickly. They get called for a false start and have their game-winning first down taken back for a second time in a row. But it gets even better because the Cowboys is the Cowboys, as Juju Smith-Schuster would say. The game ends because the Cowboys run a QB sneak with no timeouts remaining and around 10 seconds on the clock. I think it was 13 or 14 maybe in total. Now, in this situation, the quarterback runs maybe 5 or 10 yards, takes a slide. That's what it's supposed to be. You get everyone back, you get the ball to the referee, you spike the ball, you get one more shot at the end zone. Except this is Dak Prescott. You know, the guy who really understands situational football. He instead runs it like 10 to 15, takes a little extra, does his slide, and instead of handing the ball to the referee, he hands the ball to the center, who then spots his own ball, and the offensive linemen get into formation, blocking the referee. Now, for those of you that might be saying, I don't think that's how football works, you would be correct, because that's not how football works. You can't spot your own ball, otherwise Jimmy Garoppolo would have just given himself a first down and we would have never been in this situation in the first place, right? So we have rules for a reason. You're supposed to give the ball to the ref and let him spot it. So Dak essentially cost his team the game by not giving the ref the ball to spot it, and then further physically blocking the ref from touching the ball to spot it, and he has to respot the ball because you can't just pick where you want to spot that. Like, it's so insane that he didn't understand this concept, but it is what it is. We have one more bullet point because, of course, we have to just up the stakes even more. Cowboys fans are blaming the refs for the loss. Not only Cowboys fans, Cowboys players are blaming the refs for the loss. If you think everything I just said was ridiculous, Dak in a press conference found out that fans were throwing trash, and he said that he was disappointed because they shouldn't be throwing trash at the players. When one of the interviewers clarified, no, they actually were throwing trash at the referees instead of the players, Dak said, quote, credit to them, end quote. Yeah. So a player openly endorsing angry fans throwing trash at referees who made the correct calls after Dak botched the finale. If that isn't the Cowboys, I don't know what is. So to recap, not a single person on this podcast is surprised about the Cowboys having a great season and then immediately choking in the playoffs to unforced errors in the most hilarious way possible and then blaming everyone but themselves. The Cowboys either don't understand the rules of the game, or Mike McCarthy doesn't understand the rules of the game, or maybe they're just so undisciplined they don't care, because it seemed like no one there actually understood football or situational football. It was wild. I'm happy. I loved it. I don't even hate the Cowboys, and after that game, I now hate the Cowboys. So that's where we're at. Sergi, I know you had Sergi, I know you had a couple things you wanted to talk about before we moved on.
Yeah, we talked about this a little bit last week when we called the game, and I called the game for the 49ers. And the reason I did this is I said, one, the 49ers are pretty good at playing mistake-free football. I don't think Dallas's defense is as shut down as people want to believe. They are built off getting big plays off of turnovers. The 49ers limited themselves to 1 turnover, and it benefited them greatly. Not to mention, I said the second thing is the 49ers have a great rushing attack, and the Dallas Cowboys have a middle-of-the-pack rushing defense. The 49ers ran the ball 37 times for 169 yards, 2 TDs with 42 yards on big breakaway runs. So they were running consistently and able to get chunk plays. What's really crazy about this team? Actually, before I move on to that point, I also have been saying, and Zach has been supporting me on this whole season, that Dak Prescott is a mediocre QB surrounded by the best situation in football. Where do great quarterbacks come in? Where do they happen? Where do they occur? Where do they get created? It is in high pressure, high stakes situations where they need to raise the level of play of their team, throw the ball, and win the game. And you know what? Dak Prescott could not do that despite being surrounded by the most talented group of players, I think, in the NFL. He completed 53% of his passes, and he had 5.9 yards per attempt. He was dismal. And like I said, the Cowboys made a mistake when they handed this man a $150 million contract, when they handed Zeke Elliott a $60-70 million contract, because now they are going to come into a situation where they are not going to be able to keep an incredibly talented team around these players. And they will see that Dak Prescott is not worth $40 million a year. On the flip side, though, guys, Jimmy Garoppolo is a Trent Dilfer-esque game manager, as we've described here. And the 49ers, with Jimmy Garoppolo's $20-something million a year contract, are winning games. They are winning playoff games. What happens? Completely managing the game. What happens when a competent Trey Lance takes the field next season? This is going to be a really, really fun offense to watch.
Absolutely, 100%. I'll add one little thing here, and then we'll be off to awards, my friends. But my dad and I, he's the reason why I really love football. Honestly, not to get too sentimental here or anything like that in the middle of a segment, but if it weren't for my dad, I probably wouldn't love football. And also my first ex-girlfriend, whose dad wanted me to play football, and I was just like, yeah, I'll do it. I'll do anything to make her happy. But all those things aside, man, my dad and I, we have celebrated over the fact that the Cowboys overpaid their quarterback, because it's like, unless it's Aaron Rodgers or Patrick Mahomes, which obviously, they're two of the best quarterbacks in the league, none of these guys who make this money can seem to bring their teams back after making that money.
Josh Allen. I think Josh Allen's going to enter that echelon of guys.
I think he's going to enter that too. But with that said, there's still guys like Jared Goff. Jared Goff makes more money than Aaron Rodgers right now, actually. The whole entire point of what it is that I've been trying to say is that there are tons of quarterbacks who make a ton of money who weren't worth their salt. And I get it. They need to get as much money as they can so that way they can live a full life. But if they just do what the GOAT, Tom Brady himself, did, which was take team-friendly contracts for his entire career, they can win more championships than anything else. And I truly believe that is one of the few things that holds back quarterbacks these days. Every single quarterback wants to get top 10 quarterback money, and most of them aren't worth it. And then when they show that they're not worth it, their teams are screwed. And I love nothing more than seeing that the Cowboys are screwed going forward.
Yep.
All right,
and
my friends.
Shout out to Zach's dad. Shout out to Zach's ex-girlfriend.
Yeah.
Awards for the worthy.
Wow.
Welcome to our favorite segment every single week, unless it's arguing over comeback player of the year. Actually, that was in this segment anyways. It's awards, guys. It's the best part of this podcast. I love it. Rob and Sergi love it. You love it. Even if you're saying to me, Zach, I don't love it. I can't hear you anyways, so I'm not worried about it. Rob, go ahead and get us started with the awards.
The first award is the Shoot Your Shot Right Into Your Own Foot award. And this goes to the Dallas Cowboys for ruining themselves with dumb penalties, play calls, and decision making. They beat themselves just as much as the 49ers beat them. Congratulations to the Dallas Cowboys.
All right, next up we have the We Don't Have a Chance, so let's just go in and play and have fun award, which goes to Ben Roethlisberger for correctly identifying that the Steelers did not have a chance to beat the Chiefs, and for being brutally honest about that in an interview before the game. Looks like Ben Roethlisberger settles on the field for a loss and settles off the field as well.
Next up, it's not over until the referee blows the whistle. And sometimes it's still not over award. And that goes to the referees of the Bengals-Raiders game for accidentally blowing the whistle before the play was over and still giving the Bengals the touchdown catch after, the rule states clearly once a whistle is blown, the play is dead. Honestly, I love it. I feel like these referees were standing up to the rest of the referees in the NFL and saying, down with the man, down with the system. It's more of like a Rage Against the Machine award for me. Rob, you next.
Up next, we have the Sad Truth Award, and this award goes to me, Rob, for saying out loud, I would rather watch Jackson Mahomes and Juju Smith-Schuster have a TikTok dance-off than continue to watch this game during the Steelers-Chiefs game. So congratulations to me, Rob.
And bonus sad truth is the fact that Rob had the Panthers as a playoff team this year.
No, I bet an 80%, dude. I will take that Panthers L.
Oh, that was funny.
All right, next up we have and I just renamed it last minute, the Who's Your Daddy Award, which goes to the Buffalo Bills for firmly establishing that they are the owners of the AFC East in a post-Tom Brady era.
Oh, man. I didn't realize that I was going to be getting this award. Brandon, I'm sorry. This is the Sick Draft Pick Award. Sick Draft Pick Bro Award. And this goes to the Philadelphia Eagles for drafting Jalen Reagor over anybody else who's worth a darn after him.
No. We have a list here. We have Justin Jefferson.
Yeah, we do. We have Justin Jefferson. We have T. Higgins. We have
Michael Pittman.
We have Jonathan Taylor. We have DeAndre Swift. And they're not
Laviska
receivers.
Shenault.
Laviska Shenault. All these different guys. And Laviska's not even a proven guy, but I would still take him over Jalen. Jalen Reagor is horrible, and honestly, I'm so sorry to only one Eagles fan, and everybody else, I don't feel bad because you guys are in my division. Just please don't draft Treylon Burks. For the love of God, don't let him go to Philly. Rob, you're next.
We're just going to keep going with the Philadelphia Eagles awards. Up next, we have the Big Duck Hunting Award, and this goes to Jalen Hurts for being the worst quarterback in the Wildcard weekend. Despite Big Ben still existing, he somehow threw more ducks than Big Ben. So Big Ben was 29 for 44, 215 yards, 2 touchdowns. Again, if you think about it, 44 passes, 215 yards. That's pretty terrible, right? Jalen Hurts was 23 for 43 for 258 yards, 1 touchdown, 2 of the worst interceptions you will ever see. Zach, hit us with the last one.
Thank you, Rob. I appreciate it. Sorry, Sergi. This is like my sweet revenge for how bad of a season it's been for me and how much it sucks to be a Washington football fan. This is the Zero Accountability Award, and this goes to Dak Prescott for completely blundering away the game with a lack of situational awareness and then blaming the referees in typical Cowboys fashion. Now, I know that this award could easily go to Dan Snyder for not selling the team after doing all those terrible things, and you darn right I'm going to mention it every single time that I can. But the fact that the Cowboys choked away this game is chef's kiss. It's over. It's done. And I don't have to listen to, oh, how about them boys? Because now I can say, oh, how about them boys, bro? They suck.
Speaking of teams that suck, we have an extra special segment that is returning, revamped. Up next, we are bringing back NFL Therapy with 2 special guests.
NFL Therapy.
Is this some radical new therapy?
My friends, we are bringing back a segment that back in the day, Rob and I discussed. And it was such a beautiful idea. We both loved it. We just couldn't figure out how to do it during the season. But now we found how to fill our time through the off season. So we're bringing it back today. I know it's a little early. We're in the postseason. NFL Therapy. And Broncos fans, we're going to do some NFL therapy with you guys. Jeff, I know that you're a listener every single week. We have a devoted podcast listeners, Jeff and Ian. I'm not going to say your last names, but I was going to say that we have you guys. We know that you guys listen to this stuff, so still listen to the podcast, even though you're going to be involved on it, because we need those numbers artificially bumped up. But we just wanted to know, guys, going into this season, how do you feel? Oh, and I think Sergi wanted to say something too, right?
Well, thanks for passing it off so courteously, Zach. Jeff, Ian, welcome to the podcast. This is a session where you can just tell us the things you tell your therapist and how you're feeling and how the Broncos are impacting your ability to eat and sleep and anything important that's going on in life. Broncos fans, welcome to therapy. I feel like the Broncos have just been one quarterback away since Peyton Manning retired, and you cannot seem to find him. So how do you feel about the season? You had Teddy Bridgewater, you had Drew Lock, you had a lot of disappointment. Like the floor is yours.
I'll actually let Ian go first because he had an interesting comment prior to us recording. So I want to hear his thoughts on a specific QB.
So
Yes.
also, just for the audience, obviously that was Jeff, even though he didn't introduce
I'm
himself. All right, Ian, go ahead, bud.
Yeah, hey, I'm Ian, just because, Zach's giving him crap about not introducing himself. But I think the first question was, overall, how do I feel about the season? And I'm pretty lukewarm on it. I think going into it, there were a lot of lofty expectations about the young talent on the roster, Vic Fangio's defense. They kind of overpromised and underdelivered. And I think a lot of that had to do with Teddy Bridgewater not kind of taking risks. I know one of my biggest things that I saw this season was a lot of the time Pat Shurmur was scheming someone open at least 10 to 15 yards down the field, and Teddy Bridgewater just kind of take that easy check down. And I think with the way Denver kind of played, where you have a stout defense, you give first downs up, not really turnovers, but bend not break kind of thing, you got to take a little more risk on the offense. And I think Teddy Bridgewater really wasn't the choice long term, at least for this season. I think Vic Fangio tried to play it safe to keep his job.
Well, that being said, Jeff, I mean, how do you feel with you guys had a quarterback problem? And granted, you got a phenomenal player in the draft this year in Patrick Surtain. I mean, the guy is going to be an all-pro corner in years to come. But you passed on Justin Fields and you passed on Mac Jones. How do you reconcile that? Do you feel good about going into the season with the quarterback controversy, or are you happy with your corner that you got in the draft?
I have to think about if we took Mac Jones or if we took Justin Fields, he would have to have found success in the offense that we have in Denver with Pat Shurmur and Fangio. And I don't think that offense with Shurmur, with him, he never played towards player strengths. He had a very structured plan that he thought that was the only way to have success. And I don't think that we would have seen the same either success or the same flashes from a Jones, especially Jones being in the offense that they have in New England, and then with Fields. Granted, that offense in Chicago didn't look super hot also. So I do think from a standpoint of seeing Justin Fields, seeing him, be an athletic QB, that's something that we don't have currently. And so that stung. But I think with the system that we had, anyone in there was probably going to be bound to maybe to not fail, but to not hit the standards that they're currently hitting.
Gotcha. So the most important thing I got from that was that Pat Shurmur and Vic Fangio were bad. Zach, Drew Lock is still good. Drew Lock still has a chance. I think next year is the year. Okay.
Absolutely not. Next year is the year is going to be every year for Drew Lock. Everybody's just going to sit there and talk about, the potential, the arm talent, the this, the that. But you can't correct that decision making that he has. You can try and correct the footwork, but the inconsistency is there all the time. I don't know how Jeff
was a big fan.
Yeah, right. So Jeff, I'm fairly certain you're not a big Drew Lock guy anymore. I know you are. Like, guys, just to give you some context on Jeff loved Tim Tebow. Jeff loved Peyton Manning. Jeff even went to home for Kyle Orton. I mean, Jeff is the most loyal Broncos fan I've ever met in my entire life, and I respect it to no end because he's always so optimistic and positive. And he finally gave up on Drew Lock, which is how I knew it's an appropriate time to also give up on Drew Lock. So, Jeff, you've given up on Drew Lock to an extent. I know Ian's a fan of Drew Lock. I want to hear from you, Jeff. Why did you give up on him? And then, Ian, I want to hear why it is that you haven't.
So I gave up on him because the team gave up on him. When they went with Teddy, that's kind of them saying at that point, and I think Ian, he said it earlier, that when Fangio chose Teddy for the QB spot, he didn't choose it for the long-term success of the franchise. He chose it for the job security that he thought that Teddy was able to win now, whereas Drew off the gate, because we had the first three or four games that Denver had was against very very poor teams. So I think Fangio's thought was, let's get someone who can find success instantly, and I can build up my record and hopefully stick around here. And so when he took Teddy and said, we're going to go off with the 2021 season, I think that's when they kind of said Drew isn't our guy. And when Teddy got hurt, it was like two or three times Fangio had the opportunity and still said, when Teddy comes back healthy, this is still his team. So I think it's just flat out that. And with Fangio gone, I still think I think George Payton, who I'm a huge fan of, I also think that he's out on him also.
Mm-hmm.
So I think because the team gave up on Drew, I kind of have to.
That's fair. Yeah, so that's because it indicates that his time in Denver is probably coming to an end.
Mm-hmm.
Ian, what about you, man?
Yeah, you picked up Drew Lock in Dynasty. You had faith, my man.
Yeah, I don't necessarily think Drew Lock was the long-term solution in Denver, but I think when you look at the tools that people thought Denver had going into the season, good pass rush, one of the best secondaries in the NFL, good talent at wideout, Jerry Jeudy's back, Cortland Sutton's back, KJ Hamler's back, got Javonte Williams in there. And then you go with a passive check down quarterback. You're not trying to force that ball downfield into 50-50 scenarios when you play someone like Teddy Bridgewater. But if you put Drew Lock in there, you give your wide receivers a chance to, show what they can do down the field. You give Jerry Jeudy a chance to burn people in some routes, good releases. And instead, you have Pat Shurmur's offense, a lot of pre-motion snaps, a lot of check downs, a lot of 1-2 reads where Bridgewater's just taking the easy out because he's not confident with his arm strength down the field, maybe. So, that's why I wanted Drew Lock last season. But moving forward, I do agree. Drew Lock is definitely not the long-term move for Denver as a franchise.
So question, it sounds like neither of you are too passionate about the quarterbacks that are currently on your roster. Now, what that says to me is that we got to go find a quarterback somewhere, right? Your team has some good people in good positions, but the draft upcoming does not look like it's going to be a fantastic quarterback class. We have some potential big-name free agents coming up: Aaron Rodgers, Russell Wilson, possibly Deshaun Watson. What I want to know is, are you guys looking for a big-name veteran now? Are you looking for maybe a long-term solution in a draft pick in a development project? And how far down the river are you willing to sell your soul for a quarterback for your franchise?
Ian, go ahead and respond first because you're not on mute. And then Jeff, go ahead afterwards.
Yeah, I think, the big risk, big reward prayer for another Super Bowl is definitely Aaron Rodgers. I think, if you sell out 2 seasons worth of draft picks, Denver's got a 1-2-2 this next year. They'll be able to get Aaron Rodgers over, and I think that would instant playoff AFC championship contender. The dumb side of me always hopes, Andrew Luck rides back in on his horse from retirement and brings Denver another Super Bowl. It's all Colts grow up to become Broncos. But at the end of the day, the last thing I want to see is Teddy Bridgewater, Kirk Cousins, Sam Darnold. We're competing with Mahomes, Justin Herbert, Derek Carr, with potentially a Jim Harbaugh down in Raiders, right? Like we can't come with some top 30 quarterback play. We need some top 10. We need some top 5, and we gotta win games.
So do you think that, a guy could come like a Matt? You guys are picking, I think, 9th or 10th overall in the draft. So you have a shot at one of these quarterbacks unless teams go crazy trading up. I don't think this is going to be the year. I mean, you'll have a shot at Malik Willis, Matt Corral, Kenny Pickett, Sam Howell, really probably any one of the guys that are going to be there. Do you see any one of them in Denver, or do you think it's the veteran presence and you'd rather try and win now?
I think it depends on what Peyton does with head coach. He's been very clear he's looking for a team leader and a big team focus, kind of setting everything together and letting them take over for long-term success, his vision. So if they want a leader, I think they're going to look for a well-established, veteran. But if he sees something, I think Matt Corral would probably be a decent fit for where we're picking around 9.
Sounds like Adam Gase is coming back to Denver. Jeff, what do you think about the quarterbacks in the upcoming draft and free agency? What do you think you guys' moves are going to be?
For QBs in the draft, I haven't done a lot of research on them, but I do know that as you said, it isn't a strong QB class. Like the top 15 or so players who are in the draft. There's I think one QB maybe in that top 15.
Maybe being the big word there. Yeah.
Yeah, I was trying to think probably 20.
Yeah, top 20, I'd say.
Yeah, so I'm not super high because we picked 9, and when that value isn't there at that QB spot, a lot of teams will still pull that trigger, and I'm just afraid of that happening to where. And as I said, I haven't seen a lot of film on them, but I have seen that the QB from I want to say
Liberty.
Yeah. A lot of people have said that he's possibly a second round talent. So, the thing that I don't want is I just don't want to reach for someone. But if it has to be someone, I would like Kenny. I'm a big fan of him, just because I think decision making. I think that's a big thing that has to change for the QBs, being with Drew Lock, having that gunslinger mentality, but then that can rear its ugly head and have 2 interceptions in his time replacing Teddy, which was in the span of half a game.
Yeah.
So I would say probably the best option for success is probably a free agent, as Ian said, and it's probably going to be. I would hope it's either between Aaron Rodgers and then there's the discussion with Russell Wilson also.
How would you guys feel about Carson Wentz? There's conversations.
Right
is that what you were going to say?
Yeah. This there's syncing up the brain lines.
It'd be a lot cheaper.
Colts are non-committal.
I would hope so. Yeah.
Well, we talked plenty about quarterbacks, but there's another thing that's going on with this team. There's that vacancy at head coach. Ian, do you like any of the coaching pool in the market? I mean, you've been hearing a little bit about Brian Flores to Denver, maybe a Gerard Mayo? Who are you liking? Who do you want leading this team come the 2022 season?
So I think Denver's doing it. They're very interesting. They're interviewing 10 people right now publicly. They've said they are. And they've got some low risk guys, some high risk guys. Looking at the Rams offensive coordinator, could be the next Sean McVay, or he could be Zach Taylor and just luck your way into the playoffs. Could end up with Nate Hackett and Getsy from Green Bay. See some Aaron Rodgers offense development down there. If they're looking for a good leader too, they're looking at Aaron Glenn, the Lions defensive coordinator. I think he'd be a pretty interesting pickup if he can make build a strong defense with that bite you out of the kneecaps kind of attitude Dan Campbell gave him. I think that'd be interesting to see down there.
What about you, Jeff? If you had to choose a head coach that you guys have been publicly interested in right now, who do you think you would go with? Oh, you're on mute, bud. You're on mute.
Sorry about that.
What about
I would say out of the 10 that we've interviewed, I think we're actually interviewing the top candidate tomorrow, and that's Dan Quinn, the defensive coordinator from Dallas. Now he's a big George is a big fan of having the coach be a guy who is a leader of men. He said that in his press conference, and I think that's something that he's good. That he's probably putting top on his priorities, is having someone who can be a leader. And Dan Quinn, almost called him Robert Quinn.
the outside linebacker.
But I would say Dan has also had very good success finding coordinators on both sides. I think there was a stat that said anytime that he's been a head coach, he hasn't been outside of the top 8 for offense. So for his coordinators, he's had Shanahan. He's found guys that have found success on their own. So I think having a guy who can find talent, can find that offensive guru, and he actually did. I believe he worked on the same staff as the coordinator in San Francisco, who's a hot name, McDaniels. So I would hope for Quinn. I think that would be a solid option. And he also did go to Salisbury, which I'm a alumni there also. So that would also be cool just to see a fellow Seagull in there.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, I heard that Dan Quinn is very available for interviews. He actually has nothing planned for the next month. So
yeah, thankfully. Look, I mean,
Guys.
Dan Quinn in Denver. Bradley Chubb is a 4-3 pass rusher. He turned Trayvon Diggs, who is a sorry corner, and I believe is a sorry corner who manages to pick the ball off well, into a top corner, quote unquote. Imagine what he could do with Pat Surtain. That'd be crazy to see.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Love it.
Well, sorry to cut you off, Serge. No, what I was going to say was we're actually pretty much out of time now, unfortunately.
I was going to ask them one more question.
We have time for, I guess, one more. Yeah.
Ask them one more question. Yeah. Guys, just know this will be the last question.
One crazy trade that you would want this offseason. What would it be?
Ooh.
Go first-round pick, 2 second-round picks, Jerry Jeudy for Devontae Adams, then pick up Aaron Rodgers, Hackett, and Getsy in the offseason.
Ooh, so just take Green Bay and transplant them right into Denver. Not the worst idea. Jeff, what about you?
A blockbuster trade. I can't think of names, but just anything to shore up our right tackle. We've always had that issue of just someone coming in and just being a blockade and just can stay healthy, because that's been a spinning door. So I don't know. All right, Trent. Anything to get Trent Williams. Anything, whatever it takes.
Yeah, the podcast offensive player of the year. That's going to be expensive.
Offensive player of the year.
No, so I think Trent Williams is probably staying in San Francisco, is my guess.
This is
he has 138 million reasons to.
But I like it.
He does.
I like the aggression.
Jeff's not wrong, though. Since Ryan Harris has not been with the Broncos, they have had a gaping hole at right tackle. But go ahead, Serge. Go ahead and finish your email.
I was going to say, Jeff, Ian, thank you all so much for coming on, and thank you all so much for listening to the podcast. I hope you had fun talking about your team and just telling us what you see for the future. I look forward to beating both of your butts in the respective dynasty leagues that I am in with you all.
Me too.
You know, even though I did draft Josh Jacobs, which was a mistake. It was a mistake. I'll admit it was a mistake.
Big mistake. I don't know why you do that. And you're talking to Broncos fans too, so they're definitely going to agree.
All right, Zach, anything to close us up?
Nah, guys, just thank you very much for your time. I hope you guys enjoyed your time on here. And anybody who's interested in NFL therapy in the future, we are already probably reaching out to you, but in case we aren't, just let us know.
Yeah, that'll be $270. Thank you guys very much.
I love it.
Thanks, guys.
The future is now.
The future is now.
All right, everyone, and welcome to The Future Is Now, the segment where we look into our plethora of crystal balls and trying to tell you what is going to happen this coming week in the NFL. Bear in mind, we are still recording on Monday evening before the Cardinals and Rams game, so some of these could be subject to change and or discussion. But first off, Zach, who have you got with the 49ers and the Packers?
49ers Packers, man, it's going to be a fun game, I think. You know, I love to see that Kyle Shanahan is back in the playoffs with his creative mind and Deebo Samuel. I would love to see more than anything. Also, Jimmy Garoppolo did suffer a shoulder sprain. I just saw that in between our break there. He suffered a shoulder sprain. He's probably going to play, but there's also a chance that Trey Lance could get an uptick in snaps, which would make me very happy. But at the end of the day, I am choosing the Packers over the 49ers every day of the week. The Packers are the best team in football. It's in Lambeau in wintertime. The 49ers are from California. They play in the Bay Area, and it's going to be cold, but not nearly Lambeau cold. I think that the Packers have the best advantage for the rest of the playoffs for any NFC team, being the fact that all of the other NFC teams that are still here are from the South or playing domes. Packers over Niners every day of the week. Sergi, next up.
So you say that, but the last 5 times, I think doesn't Kyle Shanahan won the last 4 or 5 times that he's played the Packers with the Niners?
No, the Packers beat them in their last meetup.
Oh, their last meetup.
Prior to that, yes, Shanahan has had LaFleur's number. And the reason for that is because LaFleur is a student of the West Coast offense.
Yeah,
he basically runs
he
runs the offense that Shanahan basically created.
All I'm saying is that
Jimmy Garoppolo and not Aaron Rodgers.
But with a sore shoulder, Trey Lance, second half, 49ers come back and win this.
No.
Like Tua in the Alabama National Championship a couple years ago?
Yeah, exactly.
All right, this is the future is now, not the past is now, guys. Let's move on.
All right, next up, we have the Bengals at the Titans, and this is really a coin toss in my opinion. But, ladies and gentlemen, do you hear that rumbling? The king is back. Derrick Henry is returning for the Tennessee Titans. The man that was 8th or 9th in the NFL in rushing this season, despite the fact that he only played for half a season. He is returning and he is healthy and he's expected to have a significant workload against the Cincinnati Bengals. The Cincinnati Bengals also lost one of their star defensive players up front for the rest of the year. Larry Ogunjobi is out. Their front seven has been weakened a little bit. Guys, y'all know I'm a Joe Burrow fan. I picked Joe Burrow.
You did.
Over Lamar Jackson to start my dynasty fantasy football team. I am a huge Joe Burrow fan, objectively.
I was disgusted. No, I loved it. I was
about to say.
I was disgusted because I lost the chance of getting Joe Burrow. Okay?
Exactly. Along with many other people, which just makes me happy. But I just don't think that the Bengals can overcome a healthy Derrick Henry. Derrick Henry opens up this entire offense. Derrick Henry forces you to play one-on-one coverage on A.J. Brown and Julio Jones. Derrick Henry forces your defense to try and be physical all game and to fall apart in the fourth quarter when they're tired of tackling 250 pounds of sheer muscle. Derrick Henry is a game-changing running back, and there are maybe 1 or 2 of those in the NFL right now. With Derrick Henry back, with Derrick Henry resuming his title, with Derrick Henry remaking the Tennessee Titans back into the Tennessee Derrick Henrys, I think the Titans are going to beat the Bengals.
All right. Next, we have Bills at Chiefs. Now, I want to remind everyone, this is week 2 of the playoffs. This is not the AFC Championship game. This is not the Super Bowl game. This is week 2. This is a blessing. Because as far as I'm concerned, this game could easily be the Super Bowl. The Bills and the Chiefs, I mean, you could argue in the playoffs right now, they could be the 2 best teams, easily top 5, both of them, right? We are going to be treated to an amazing, amazing game this weekend. The Bills blew out the Patriots. The Chiefs blew out the Steelers. This is a hard one to predict. Both of them have had rough games this year where they kind of felt like they got exposed. I think I want to pick the Bills. I think they're the better team. I think they're all around more complete, and I think they make less mistakes than the Chiefs. But it is an Arrowhead, which makes this a little bit more complicated.
Mm-hmm.
Josh Allen played lights out. He played a nearly perfect game last week. Mahomes played a good game, but didn't look like the Mahomes that we're used to, right?
It's funny how we say that. We're like, he doesn't look like the Mahomes we're used to, but he still put up like 405 yards and 5 touchdowns.
Godlike numbers.
Yeah. It's, I mean, we can, I don't know. We've been talking trash about the Chiefs all year, but what?
Not me.
A little bit. Sorry.
A little bit.
They win. They've been winning.
Yeah, and the fact of the matter is, Mahomes on a bad day is still better than Sam Darnold on his best day. And that's just how it is. So that's what makes this so tough. It's that this game could honestly go either way. And I think what's going to happen is this game will be decided by which team shows up. That is literally what's going to decide it. Which team shows up. My pick.
And because it is the home team, they do have a shorter commute. So
They do.
So they'll probably show up to the
They'll
stadium.
probably
But
show up
I-
relatively early.
I think Josh Allen is going to show up. I actually have the Buffalo Bills going into Arrowhead, beating Patrick Mahomes and the Chiefs. I think the Bills are the more complete team. I think they're better. I think the Buffalo Bills are going to go to Arrowhead and they're going to knock the Chiefs out of the playoffs.
Which makes our AFC Championship matchup the Buffalo Bills at the Tennessee Titans. Which means the Tennessee Titans are going to the Super Bowl because the Buffalo Bills cannot stop the run. But we do, before we jump 2 to 3 weeks ahead, we do have one more team to discuss. Matchup. Well, we haven't seen them play yet. They're kicking off in about 30 minutes. The Cardinals and the Rams are playing tonight, and they will be going up against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. This is another coin toss game for me. I think it's really going to come down to, one, is Matt Stafford going to turn the ball over?
Pick six or no pick six?
That's the
question.
Yeah.
And two, can Kyler Murray overcome Cliff Kingsbury and overcome the ankle injury? He has not been the same player since he was out for I think it was 3 or 4 weeks with that ankle injury. The Cardinals do get JJ Watt back this game for what it's worth, but he is coming off, I think, a torn biceps. Torn
pectoral, torn bicep. It was the entire chain.
Yeah,
he's going to be playing one armed. I don't know where to go this game. My gut is telling me the Cardinals, but that's just my gut talking to me.
Boys, if I can be completely honest with you, I think that tonight's game doesn't matter.
Yeah, I think
it doesn't matter. I think no matter who wins, I think the Buccaneers are beating them next week.
I agree. I don't even think that highly of the Buccaneers, but they showed up in a big way this week, especially with Shaq Barrett coming off an injury.
Mm-hmm.
And I think the Buccaneers will handle, regardless of if it's the Rams or the Cardinals. I think they just have their number.
I also just completely forgot. DeAndre Hopkins isn't back yet. He's still
he'll be out another week. Yeah.
I think
Christian Kirk.
I think that tips it to the Rams.
I think next week the Buccaneers will beat the Rams in Tampa. That's what I think will happen.
Yeah, I agree 100%. Wait.
Wow. It's weird that we just agree on stuff.
No.
I'm so not used to it.
Wouldn't the Rams be at home?
No, the Rams won't be at home.
The Bucs won their division.
Wait, no.
Rams
That's right. You're right. So if
if
Cardinals win, then it's going to be Buccaneers at Arizona. If the Rams win, then it's going to be the Rams.
No, it would be Arizona at Buccaneers.
It's Arizona.
I thought Arizona was the 2 seed.
No. It was the Rams.
Arizona's the 5 seed. Rams, I think, they're the 3 or the 4. I can't remember.
Guys, we don't know what we're talking about.
I think they go to Buccaneers no matter who it is. We're going to fact check by Bananas live here.
I'm doing it real quick. You guys keep talking, even though we only have 3 minutes.
Yeah, basically the TLDR is...
No, you're right. Yeah, Bucs were number 2. I did not realize they managed to squeeze out the number 2 spot. So everything, the road goes through Tampa.
They're going to Tampa. They're probably losing. And then we're probably seeing Tampa at Green Bay most likely. I think that's... We all agree on that?
Yeah, I would agree.
Yeah. So
my gosh,
so imagine
Aaron Rodgers, Tom Brady,
rematch. I'm
NFC
so excited.
Championship game.
It's going to be beautiful.
Ooh.
It's going to be, and then you have, like you said, Titans, Bills, and I get that the Titans are probably the least talented team among all 4 of these, but they show up, they win games. Derrick Henry, and they won games even with injuries at every single major position. So I'm hyped, man. I'm hyped. Guys, we're going to go ahead. We're going to wrap this up. We only have 2 minutes left on our free Zoom anyways, and we don't want to open up another one. So we just, as always, want to say thank you so much. Somebody else followed one of our TikToks TikTok this week.
There we go. Antonio Brown rap. Let's go. That's going to bring all the people to our channel.
Big views, dude. Big views. Big views.
So follow our TikTok, follow the social media that we have in general. Give us the ratings that you want to give us. If it's a 1-star, don't give it to us. Anything below 3-star, honestly, anything below 4-star, I don't really want. 4-star, let's keep it real. But anything
we only accept 5 stars on this podcast, all right?
100%. No, 100%. But anyways, guys, thank you so much. We love it. We love to do this, and we enjoy ourselves, and we are happy that people actually just listen to us. As always, I'm Zach Miles.
I'm Rob Sahutsky.
I'm Sergey Feldman, and thank you for listening to Babble of the Beltway.